I talked about this with you last week. The thing that bothers me about Missouri is I think that like I would never want to go there as a coach or a player because, again, I read a lot of different newspapers around the area, around SEC country, and most SEC media is homer media in the most annoying way. I mean, like Tuscaloosa is the worst. Nick Saban will tell the journalists to jump, and they'll say how high. And I mean, they bow to Nick Saban in an embarrassing way, quite honestly. But Missouri's the opposite. They're so high on themselves as journalists. They're like, we're going to go out of our way. We're not going to be even objective. We're going to be anti-homer. We're just going to be negative on the football team because that's what we do because we're Missouri. And
it's true, but some people accuse Knoxville's media of doing that in the latter years of Philip Fulmer, and I don't think that a lot of people knew what was going on behind the scenes.
Everybody who accused Knoxville media of doing that was already a homer themselves for Tennessee, though. I'm not a Missouri homer, and I'm reading what Missouri writes about Missouri, and so
it is a bad football program, though.
It's partially bad because their media is so hard on them. That's what I'm saying. Like they go out of their way to be negative because of the whole. They're so scared of being homers because they're so high on themselves as journalists. They go out of their way to not praise them, if that makes sense. And Tennessee. Again, yes, people accuse Knoxville media of doing that. Knoxville media was doing its job. We all saw that the program was sliding under Philip Fulmer, and you guys at the time were just reporting on it. Anybody that had a problem with that, I remember people blamed you guys, Dave. I remember Vol fans blaming you guys for Tennessee not having the recruiting class it needed in 2008, as if it's y'all's fault.
Oh my gosh. I only got blamed for that actually one time on a personal level, and that was I had Josh Ward, and I can't remember the guy's name, Josh Ward, call a prospect and interview him. And for some reason, John Chavis viewed that interview, which I didn't even do, but nobody reads bylines, as turned him off to Tennessee. And it was so straight down the middle. The guy went elsewhere. I think he was a defensive end. And I heard through Philip Fulmer that John Chavis was so mad about that. I'm like, I don't think you understand. The media doesn't see most good media. And you mentioned Alabama, and I think of Cecil Hurt. Cecil Hurt was an incredible reporter, an incredible writer, God rest his soul. He was not one of the Alabama homer media that are out there, just like Kentucky basketball. But there is no positive and negative when you're in the media at all. I mean, there is just objective. And what Philip Fulmer didn't know at the time is the athletic director wanted to replace him much earlier than he thought. So if I reported that, it seemed negative at the time. Thank you, Smoky Mountain Red. Dave and John brought the truth. We'll do that every Tuesday, by the way. John Adams, our regular Tuesday guest. John said, John Adams. Listen, I will say this, and I don't want to get sidetracked. But if you're a coach, the media you should not want is the homer media. Because the homer media gets upset when you lose and they go overboard. Okay, and then they're just slamming you because they don't get to take that bowl trip that they wanted, or they don't get to go to the college football playoff or the Rose Bowl or whatever the case may be. And I thought Tennessee's media did a fantastic job of covering the South Carolina debacle without letting it get emotional on a personal level. So you don't want the homer media. People think you do, but you don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the homer media is particularly from the homer media, like you said, they're not looking out for the program. They're looking out for themselves, looking out for the access they can get. I've been saying that for a while. We said that when I was covering Tennessee 4 years ago. I did not carry John Curry. I was one of the only ones who refused to carry John Curry's water when he was hired as AD for Tennessee. I said this was a Haslam move, not so much to John Curry himself, nothing on him, but you knew that this was a Jimmy Haslam hire. And you knew that Jimmy Haslam was going to be pulling the strings. And I said at the time that because he's pulling the strings, there's going to be something that blows up because everything he does is wrong.
Did you think it was Jimmy or Jim?
I thought it was Jimmy. It was Jimmy.
Okay. Well,
Jimmy was running.
If it's Jimmy, I'm with you. You're right. Jim was old.
Yeah. Because Bill was governor of Tennessee at the time, and Jim was old. So Jimmy was the only one that really had time to be a hands-on booster, if that makes sense.
Right. I thought Big Jim was the best booster in the SEC because he did provide a lot of money, and I didn't think he asserted his power as much as he could have. kind of the opposite of Bobby Louder, who didn't have as much money at Auburn, but would assert his power as best he could. So why did the Haslams want Schiano so bad? Smoky Mountain Red, I love you, but that's a topic for another day. And I've got to do another radio show here in a bit. But I will tell you this, we're going to be from 10 to noon regularly here before too long. John Adams will join us every Tuesday. We're going to work Josh Ward into the mix, who's fantastic. Fred will be every Friday. Ron Slay still every Wednesday, at least through basketball season. So we will continue to throw heat. Elias Grace as a 5-hour special. That you could do that with the Schiano almost hire. You could certainly do that.
One of the simple truths is Schiano was a bad hire, and if it's a bad move, Jimmy Haslam likes to make it. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
Right.